Jake, you pleaded guilty.
I pleaded guilty. So is this how we do things in England? I say, yes, yes. You can't see, the forest for the trees, my dear. Hmm?
Why did you plead guilty then? First, I've been speaking to one of those who has been pardoned, Jacob Chansley, known to many online as QAnon Shaman. He faced federal charges of knowingly entering or remaining in any restricted building or grounds without lawful authority and with violent entry and disorderly conduct on the Capitol grounds. He pleaded guilty to unlawfully obstructing the certification of the 2020 presidential election. He served 41 months in jail and was released early. I asked him about that day.
If you mean like the law that I broke, I entered the building illegally. If you mean like stopping people from stealing, volunteering to help the police, saying a prayer inside the Senate, singing my shamanic song inside the Senate, stopping people from breaking in once outside the building, and literally like facing an angry mob all by myself, telling everybody they're not going to break in, that also happened that day. It really all depends on what you mean by what I by your question.
Well, how you remember it?
Well, I remember it being a lot different than the mockingbirds in the media have spun it, that's for sure. The chaos and the violence that took place outside the building that day was largely provoked, as far as I remember, by tear gas, concussion grenades, and rubber bullets being shot into a peaceful crowd. It was after all that all hell broke loose. So that usually gets forgotten. And I think that the whole thing has just been mischaracterized in so many ways, that myself included. I mean, people think I'm an insurrectionist or a Republican. I'm a libertarian. There's so much distortion because of the media. One of the things I like to say is you don't realize how distorted the media lens actually is until you see your own reflection in it.
Well, now is your chance to be absolutely clear about this. Are you saying you did not go into that building to try to stop the certification of the accurate 2020 US presidential election result?
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. I did not go into the building for that reason. And the fact that you still think that I did just shows how distorted the media lens actually is.
On that point,
because that's
Jake,
never
no, Jake,
my intention.
Jake,
That's never been my intention.
I'm just literally looking at what you pleaded guilty to. That's what I'm going from. You pleaded guilty to unlawfully obstructing an official proceeding, i.e. the certification of that.
Didn't the Supreme Court say that? But didn't the Supreme Court just say that is not a practical application of the law whatsoever, and that the government was bending the law to gain convictions out of people?
Give us your reaction to being pardoned for that day by President Trump.
It feels just like it should.
Go on.
Well, I think that pretty much says it all.
Describe your emotions when you heard.
I think I got the news from my lawyer when I was at the gym, and I walked outside and I screamed freedom at the top of my lungs and then gave a good Native American war cry.
And did you expect him to follow through on what he has promised on a number of occasions through the campaign trail?
I expect Donald Trump to be a man of his word like he has been for decades. And that is a track record that we don't have with pretty much any politician in D.C. for the most part. Very few have that kind of a record of saying the same things and doing the same things, which are pro-American, for over 30 years.
You wrote on X after you'd heard the news, "Thank you, President Trump. I'm going to buy some mother effing guns." Because presumably now your record has been wiped clean, you are allowed to buy guns again. Is that what you're going to do? Have you gone out and bought them already?
Oh, yeah. Well, I want you to think about something. The mockingbirds in the media and the government demonized me. They made me social pariah. They attached things like QAnon, conspiracy theorist, white supremacist, insurrectionist, racist, homophobe, terrorist. They attached all those labels to my image. And then they imprisoned me for 27 months, 10 and a half in solitary confinement. And then they released me to the public as social pariah without the ability to own a firearm. So I can never really actually bring in a gun to a gunfight. I always have to bring a knife to a gunfight. And you do realize how wrong that is, right?
Jake, you pleaded guilty.
I pleaded guilty. So is this how we do things in England? I say, yes, yes. You can't see, the forest for the trees, my dear. Hmm?
Why did you plead guilty then?
Have you ever been in solitary confinement before?
Tell me why you pled guilty.
I'm asking you the question, dear. Have you ever been in solitary confinement? The answer is no. Have you ever had the media and the government simultaneously mischaracterizing your involvement in some sort of a politicized travesty that is being used to actually circumvent the law and certify an election that in every way, shape, and form has all the hallmarks of a regime change and corruption? I mean, you've never been in my shoes. You don't want to be in my shoes. You're too afraid to be in my shoes. That's why you're behind the camera that you're behind, and I'm behind the one that I'm behind.
And that's why I'm asking you to give me an insight into why you pleaded guilty.
I just gave it to you. But like I said, you can't see the forest for the trees, my dear.
Explain it to me. Go on.
No. I am in no way, shape, or form obligated to explain anything to you, especially now.
What do you mean, especially now? Because you're a free man and you've been part. Well, you were released a little while ago.
Not just that. I've been vindicated more than once, dear. And the BBC has its reputation in the gutter. You guys covered up Jimmy Savile for years. You covered up the rape gangs for years. You guys got the Dorian Gray image right in front of you. You got your own painting right in front of you. I mean, it's no offense, it's what you guys deserve as an institution. I don't know if you're one of the people that covered this stuff up, but I mean, you guys, you all know what you did over the last several decades. You know who you've been protecting.
I've spent years covering abuse of young women and young men as it happens. But anyway, not long after you...
I'm glad to hear that. I'm glad to hear that. No, did you cover the rape gangs or did you help cover that up? Did you cover Jimmy Savile while he was doing all that stuff to those children with special needs?
Jake,
or did you cover the fact that Prince Andrew went to Epstein Island?
Not long after you were jailed, you said you regretted what you did, that you were wrong for entering the Capitol building. And then when you got out of jail, it sounded like you weren't remorseful or regretful anymore. Where do you stand now?
Holding on to regret or hatred or anger or depression is bad spiritual hygiene. I regret nothing. You understand?
Would you do the same again?
Because I'm a better man because of what I went through. Do you regret things that are hard that you go through but make you a better human being? No, because they made you a better human being. And in all honesty, if you think of my lack of presence there on January 6th, then what you'll find is that January 6th narrative no longer has an Achilles heel. So I was the Achilles heel of the January 6th narrative because the media made me one, because they lied. They lied en masse to billions of people, and then it came back to bite them in the ass.
What did they lie about, and how has it come back to bite them in the ass?
Lord, if you can't read the writing on the wall, dear, there's nothing I can do to help you.
Jake, I'm asking you.
Oh, and I'm telling you. Can you dig what I'm saying? You can't figure this out on your own. There's nothing I can do to help you, dear.
Donald Trump.
Because I can't, there's nothing I'll be able to say to you. Do you understand? Like you can lead a horse to water, you can't make it drink. You can lead a person to knowledge, but you can't make them think. I'm leading you to the knowledge, but I mean, it's up to you to think about it.
Donald Trump called you, all those who were convicted after January the 6th, called you unbelievable patriots. I wonder if you also support the pardoning of those who were convicted alongside you, but who attacked police officers, for example.
Well, if they served their time, if they were in prison at the time, then, they did their time. They did their sentence. I leave it to the president's discretion. In all honesty, he's the one that has the Department of Justice and the files at his disposal. He's the one that has the large legal team. I don't have any of that stuff. I trust his judgment way more than I trust the judgment of people like Merrick Garland or Joe Biden.
I wonder what you would think if people had tried to stop the certification of Trump's win this time around.
Well, I didn't try to stop the certification. That's the thing you people just don't seem to understand.
I wasn't necessarily saying you did.
Stopping the certification.
I wasn't necessarily saying you did. I was just asking a broader question.
But stopping the certification was not in the best interest of any Trump supporter. We wanted there to be a debate. It was in the best interest of the deep state. That's why I believe they staged the whole thing to begin with.
What
But,
would you?
in all honesty, that's about all the time I have, my dear. So I'm
Would
going to
you
have
do
to
it
let you
again?
go.
Would you do it again, Jake?
What kind of question is that? Do you mean like if I had the knowledge that I have now, would I go back and do the whole thing all over again? Is that what you're asking?
Yeah.
Yes? Is
Yes.
that it?
Yes.
If I had the knowledge I have now and I could go back, I would try to stop the whole thing from happening. I'd go down to the Capitol before Trump was even on frickin' stage, and I would hold sacred space. I would say a prayer. I would get everybody focused on God and God alone and not easily provoked.
Thank you very much for talking to Newsnight, Jake. We appreciate your time.
God bless.